What's up, guys, and welcome back into Breaking Boards. In today's episode, we're going to break down the Monday Night Football Showdown contest over on DraftKings between the Detroit Lions traveling to take on the Baltimore Ravens. This game has a 53.5 total, with the implied team total for Detroit being 23.5 and the implied team total for Baltimore being 29.5. This game should be a banger, should be a fun one to close out week number 3. Glad to have you guys here to join me along for the ride. Without further ado, let's get into the player-by-player breakdown for the Detroit Lions traveling to take on the Baltimore Ravens. And before we jump into the player-by-player breakdown, I want to take a 30,000-foot view of the slate. This slate is wide open. I think we have 12 or 13 guys we could take a look at in the captain spot. We'll break those guys down here in a few moments. And then I think also you could look at any type of build. You could do a 1-5 Detroit. You could do a 5-1 Detroit. Same thing with Baltimore. You could have either one of these teams in a 2-4 build or a 4-2 build. And then I think 3-3 builds are viable as well. So there's ways to get different on this slate, even though these offenses are somewhat condensed. The first player we're going to take a look at is going to be Jared Goff. I do think Goff is viable in the captain spot for Monday night, although I will look to be capping my ownership in the captain spot at around 4 to 6% on Goff in this matchup. This is a great matchup going against a Baltimore team that has allowed the third most fantasy points per game to the QB position in 2025. However, with the caveat of one of those games being against Josh Allen. If you do have Jared Goff in your captain spot, you're going to want to look to pair him with 2 pass catchers. I think you can put Gibbs, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, to a lesser extent, Dave Montgomery. You could put Laporta, to a lesser extent, Brock Wright, to a lesser extent, Khalif Raymond, and then you could look to get Isaac Tesla in there as well. So those predominantly will be the guys I would look to get in the lineups with my Goff captain lineups. I do prefer Gibbs, Amon-Ra. J-Mo could bust a play wide open at any point. Laporta's fine, and then Tesla would be a good option as well. And then again, going back to these guys over here, you could look to get Raymond, Wright, and Montgomery in there to a lesser extent. And then Bates, I don't mind him mixing him in there as well in the Goff captain lineups. Next up, we have the running back position for the Detroit Lions. We have Jahmyr Gibbs and we have Dave Montgomery. That's pretty much where it's ended for Detroit in 2025. Gibbs has seen 61% of the snap share in 2025, and Montgomery has seen 38%. Gibbs has seen 13 targets, which is going to come into play over on DraftKings. And then Monty has seen 5 targets in 2025. This is a matchup which is the second best matchup on paper in 2025 for the running back position. I will look to be over the field on Jahmyr Gibbs in the flex and in the captain spot, and I'll look to be slightly under on Dave Montgomery. In the flex for Jahmyr Gibbs, I'll look to be at about 40%. I think the current ownership is around 32% on him. And then on Montgomery, I'll look to be somewhere in the 15 to 20% range and somewhere in the 5 to 10% below the field on Dave Montgomery for Monday night. Prefer the Montgomery play over on FanDuel if you're playing both sides for Monday Night Football. Again, we'll look to be over the field on Jahmyr Gibbs, try to be over about 10% on him. And next up, we take a look at the wide receiver position here for the Detroit Lions. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Jameson Williams, you have Khalif Raymond, and you have Isaac Tesla. Taking a look at the snap share for 2025, J-Mo actually leads the way with a 93% snap share. Next up, we have Amon-Ra at 90. Next up, we have Khalif Raymond at 60, and then we have Isaac Tesla at 17. I'm going to make an adjustment in my projections for these guys because I think Raymond is going to start to lose some of his snaps to Isaac Tesla. This guy's just flashed some crazy skills over his first couple of weeks. And if you haven't taken a look at those catches that he's made in 2025 so far, make sure you go back and take a look at those. Some of those one-handed catches are absolutely insane to start the season from Tesla. Like him here a lot at $1,200. But talking about the captain ownership on these guys, Tesla and Raymond won't be captain viable for me on Monday Night Football. I will look to be at about 20%. So right around the field on Isaac Tesla. $1,200 is just too cheap. I do expect that he sees around 30% of the snap share in week number 3. Again, I think he's going to bump up, and it's going to take away from Khalif Raymond. I'll look to be probably about 2 to 3% in the flex on Khalif Raymond. A $2,000 salary is a bit pricey for me, and as you see here, 3.3 to 3.6. I mean, that's fine at $2,000, but on this slate, I just don't know if it's going to get it done. And as you take a look at Tesla, he's actually outscored Khalif Raymond so far, and he's cheaper. So I will have 20% or so on Tesla. I might bump it up to 5% on Raymond, but it's not going to be someone that I'm going to look to get over the field on. Could he have a nice play here tonight? Sure. I do think there's going to be a lot of points scored. Obviously, with the total being 53.5, so does Vegas. So I will look to mix these guys in my larger field tournaments. Next up here, we're going to take a look at Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Both these guys are captain viable for me tonight. Prefer Amon-Ra on the PPR site of DraftKings and prefer JMO over on FanDuel if you're playing both sites, but don't mind either one of these guys. Either one of these guys could pop off at any minute. Amon-Ra had a 3-touchdown game last week. JMO could break a 99-yard catch at any moment, so don't mind getting either one of these guys in my captain spot. And I don't think you have to play Goff in the flex spot if you have either one of these guys in your captain spot. Amon-Ra does get some of those weird goal line touches where he just takes a handoff. They snap it, Goff turns around, puts it in his belly, and he runs it into the end zone. And J-Mo is just a playmaker, and you can put him in any way you'd like. I will have, I would say 70% of my lineups, 80% of my lineups that I have these guys in the captain spot will have Goff or Lamar in the flex. I just don't think that, I don't think Amon-Ra gets the 3 touchdowns without Jared Goff. I don't think J-Mo has the huge ceiling game without Jared Goff. So I will look to have Goff in the flex in most of those lineups. And the ones that I don't have Goff in the flex, I will have Lamar in the flex. So I predominantly will have 100% of a QB in my pass catcher captain lineups. And then talking about ownership on these guys, I'll look to be about 30% in the flex on Jameson Williams, and then I'll look to be at about 40 to 45 on Amon-Ra St. Brown. And both those numbers will be around about the field, within 5 or 6% of the field on both these guys for Monday night. Next up, we'll talk about the tight end position. We have Sam Laporta. Let's get him in the captain spot. We have Sam Laporta, and we have Brock Wright, and that's about where the snap share has seen for Detroit in 2025. Brock Wright had 45%, and then Sam Laporta is playing 88% of snaps. Laporta has 13 targets, and Brock Wright 3. Brock Wright will be someone I will mix in. I do prefer his type of play over on FanDuel, in that if he catches a ball, it's predominantly going to be in the end zone. He did have an 11.8 and a touchdown last week in Chicago, so don't mind mixing him in. But again, I prefer him over on FanDuel. No captain ownership for me on Brock Wright, and he is a bit pricey at $2,400 here in the flex. Next up, I will look to have some captain ownership on Sam Laporta. And then the flex, I'm looking at playing Laporta at about 30%, which is around about the field. Don't mind getting him in the captain spot, probably somewhere in that 4 to 6% range. I do think there's an opportunity for him to have a big game here. It's not something I'm projecting, but I do think he'll have a nice, solid game here against Baltimore. I don't think the 13.9 is too crazy. I probably expect him to get somewhere in the 50 yards, 5-6 catches, and if he gets into the box, he's going to be around that score at 13.9. So don't mind mixing him in the captain spot. And then next up, we have the defense and kicker. I think you can take a look at Bates in the captain spot if you'd like. 10 might get it done on tonight's slate. It won't be something I'll do because I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. And then the Lions defense, I'll look to mix them in as well. Current ownership on the Lions defense and the Ravens defense is around 3% in the flex, which I think is a bit insane. I will look to be over the field on that. If they're come in at 3%, I'll be double the field at least. Typically, I get 8 to 10% of these defenses in this spot. In that either one of these teams could, make a pick and get a pick 6, and then all of a sudden you're looking at 14 or 15 points at a $3,600 salary. So I want to have some exposure to them, and 3% is just not going to do it for me in a 150 build. So I will look to be at around, probably 8% on both the defenses for Monday night. And then both the kickers, I'll be about 20% on the kickers, which for Bates is about 10% above the field. So I'll be about double the field on John Bates for Monday Night Football. Recapping here for Detroit, we have Goff, we have Amon-Ra, we have Gibbs, we have J-Mo, we have Laporta captain options. If you have Goff in the captain spot, you're going to want to look to pair with Gibbs, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Laporta, Bates, Brock Wright, Khalif Raymond, Tesla. In the order of my preference would be Gibbs, Amon-Ra, probably Laporta, J-Mo tied, and then Tesla, Raymond, and then Brock Wright. I would not go below those guys. In the captain spot, if you're looking at the running back position, I do prefer Jahmyr Gibbs to David Montgomery. If I'm playing over on FanDuel, I don't mind mixing Montgomery into the captain spot, but over on DraftKings, we're talking about a 1% captain ownership probably for me, maybe 2%. He could have multiple touchdowns, but I just don't think it's likely here against Baltimore, but it's something I will try to plan for a couple of lineups just to see if it happens. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, I will look to be over the field on in the captain spot and in the flex. I do think this is a spot where they can take advantage of his athleticism, get him out of the backfield, catching some short passes and making some plays. Next up, wide receiver. Again, we talked about Amon-Ra and J-Mo, but again, you don't have to have Goff in the flex spot, but I will have 100% ownership of a QB in the flex spot if I have Amon-Ra or J-Mo up top. Same thing with Sam Laporta. If I have Laporta in the captain spot, 100% of those lineups will have Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson. And same thing here with Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams as well. As we flip over to the Baltimore side, first up, we have Lamar Jackson, obvious captain spot here. I'll be about 60% in the flex on Lamar, and then the remainder, probably be around, thinking about it a little more, I'll probably be 70%, 75% in the flex, maybe something like that on Lamar Jackson. Then I'll probably have 15% ownership in the captain spot on Lamar for Monday night. He just has a ceiling that's not rivaled by that many people in the NFL. Maybe the Josh Allen type, but there's not many guys that can match the ceiling of Lamar Jackson. Not to disrespect Jalen Hurts, but I think there's very few guys that can match Lamar Jackson's ceiling. If you have Lamar in the captain spot, I would pair him with one pass catcher. You can go Zay Flowers, you can go DeAndre Hopkins, you can go Loop, you can go Mark Andrews, you can go Rashad Bateman, you can go Tylan Wallace, you can go Justice Hill, you can go Walker. That's probably where my ownership would stop. Although there is one guy that I do think you can look at, and we'll talk about the only $200 guy I would play would be Mitchell Payton. And I'm assuming that's how you say that, but you can mix him in your Lamar captain lineups as well. Again, Lamar's a good option in the captain spot, which I don't think is going to come as any surprise to anyone watching this video. Next up, we're talking about the running back position. We have Derrick Henry and we have Justice Hill. Given the salary on Hill at $2,800, it's going to be hard to avoid him in the flex, even though I don't love this play tonight in that Detroit has been tough on opposing running games to start 2025. I'll be around about 20% on Justice Hill, which I think is around about the field currently as projected. Will not have any in the captain spot. And then Derrick Henry, I'll look to be around the field on him as well. Whatever the field is in the captain spot, say the field comes in at 7%, I don't mind getting 7%. If the field comes in at like 20, I'm going to want to look to be under the field about 5% on that. Somewhere in that 7, 8 to 15% is about where I'm comfortable playing him in the captain spot. Overall on DraftKings, much prefer the play over on FanDuel with Henry up top. If you do play Henry up top, you don't have to have Lamar in those lineups, but you can. They put up some huge games together last season. If you do have Justice Hill up top, I would look to play Lamar in the flex, given that Justice Hill does catch a lot of passes out of the backfield, and he's predominantly not going to run many carries and get the ball in the end zone that way. So he's going to carry Lamar along with him if he does score. And then going over to the wide receiver position for the Baltimore Ravens, we have a ton of these guys. We have Flowers, we have D-Hop, we have Bateman, we have Wallace, we have Devontae Walker. Walker's someone, let's see here, he played 12% of snaps so far. Hopkins has played 27, Wallace has played 41, Bateman has played 66, and Flowers has played 85. Flowers has seen 20 targets, Bateman 8, Wallace 2, Hopkins 4, and Walker 2. Bit of a price increase here for me on DeAndre Hopkins. He's gotten really lucky with touchdown variants and has made some crazy catches, something similar to Tesla in 2025. I prefer Hopkins over on FanDuel, just given that his target share has not been great to start the season, and he's needed those touchdowns to really make a mark. Although Hopkins maybe has some of the best hands I've ever seen in the NFL, being a Houston man, got to see those up close for a few years. We'll look to mix and match in Hopkins in the flex spot. Currently, I have him at around 6 to 8% in the flex. Don't love the $4,800 salary, but sometimes it just is what it is. And then Walker and Wallace, I view them about the same. I won't have any captain ownership on DeAndre Hopkins either. And then with Walker and Wallace, I won't have any captain ownership, but I don't mind mixing these guys in that these are speed guys. They can get in there and make a play in this type of game. I do think that both of these offensive coordinators are going to look to get creative, and that knowing the opponent, they're going to have to get touchdowns. Field goals aren't going to do it in this game, and I do think this is a high-scoring affair. So I do think both these guys are going to try to get creative and get these guys into space and making plays. So I don't mind mixing in either one of these guys. I view them around about the same. Again, with Tylan Wallace having the 41% snap share versus Devontae Walker having 17%. I will look to favor Wallace just a little bit more than Walker, but I'll have these guys mixed in at about 5% each in the flex spot, and don't mind getting them predominantly in the Lamar Jackson captain lineups. Looking next year, you can get Bateman in the captain spot if you'd like. $4,000 is just too cheap, and I think this is a spot where you can take advantage of him. I think, the board's just too low on Bateman in the spot at $4,000, so I will look to be over the field in the flex spot. I had him down for about 35% in the flex for Monday night. If you mix him into the captain, make sure you get Lamar in those lineups, because if Bateman is scoring, he's scoring on a long touchdown pass. Predominantly probably a favored play over on FanDuel compared to DraftKings, but don't mind mixing him in on DraftKings given the salary. Favorite play here at the wide receiver position is going to be Zay Flowers for the Baltimore Ravens, starting off the season with a 31.1 and a 14.9, 11 and 9 targets. So if we factor in 10 targets here in the spot, don't mind that at all. If you do have Zay Flowers in the captain spot, I will look to pair him alongside with Lamar in the flex for Monday night. Taking a look at the tight end position, we have Mark Andrews, we have Charlie Kolar, and we have Mitchell Payton. So far, Charlie Kolar has 0 targets on the year. Prefer him over on DraftKings, given that if he does have a target, it's probably going to be in the red zone and maybe even in the end zone. But at $600, if you have a lineup that you like with 600 left over and you want to slap him into those Lamar captain lineups, don't mind that at all. Same thing with Mitchell Payton. If you have a lineup you love with $200 remaining, he's the only $200 player that I think you can take a look at for Monday night. He does have a target on the year. If he happens to fall into the end zone, that might be what you need for Monday Night Football. It would be him or Rashid Ali. Looking at the $400 play here for the running back position for Baltimore, he does have a 3% snap share on the season. So if that's something you want to take a dart throw at, don't mind that at all. Same thing with Keaton Mitchell. He would be another $200 play that I think you could take a look at if you're feeling frisky, but he hasn't seen a snap share at all in 2025. So those are the 3 salary savers for Baltimore that I think you could take a look at. My preferred would be Mitchell Payton, and then I don't mind either one of these guys as well. So if you have the salary, I would ensure that all those guys are in your Lamar captain lineups if you're going to play either one of those guys in the flex. And then Mark Andrews is someone I will look to get in the captain spot. I will look to be around about the field or slightly less than the field on Mark Andrews. He just hasn't flashed any kind of upside whatsoever in 2025. He'll probably come in over-owned, honestly, on this slate, given his production so far. But Mark Andrews is just one of those players that when he breaks out in a big way. He can go from scoring 1.5 to scoring 30.5, no problem. So he'll be someone that I'll look to be around about the field on, because I don't want to miss out on him at all. Next up, we have Tyler Loop, and we have the Ravens defense. Loop is someone, again, just like we talked about with Bates earlier, you can play in the captain spot if you'd like. Probably not something I'm going to do, in that I think this game is going to be high scoring. I will look to be about 5 to 10% over the field on Loop in the flex, because I think the kickers are just disrespected at these prices. And I'll look to have him at around about 20 to 25% in the flex spot on Monday night. Loop has had some great games to start the season with 12 and 13, so he's looking like he's taking over for the artist formerly known as Justin Tucker. And then the Ravens defense, -3 and 15, they're all over the place. Given that, and given the $4,200 salary, I will look to be 10% or so, 8 to 10% on both these defenses in the flex on Monday Night Football, but don't love either of these plays as far as captain ownership. And then to break down Baltimore one last time, captain viable guys: Lamar, Derrick Henry, Flowers, Mark Andrews. I think that's going to be where it stops for me. You can put Bateman in a couple lineups and larger field stuff if you want to. Mark Andrews would actually be a larger field guy for me as well. And I don't think that he has a significant upside on Monday night, but he could pop off. So I'll have him at probably 2 or 3%, maybe 4 in my 150 builds in the captain spot. If you do have Mark Andrews up top, you're going to want to look to get Lamar Jackson in the flex. Zay Flowers, I'll look to be around about the field on him or slightly over, given where they come in on ownership before Monday night in the captain spot. If you have Flowers up top, you're going to want to look to get Lamar in the flex. Derrick Henry up next. Don't mind playing him in the captain spot. Prefer to do it over on FanDuel, but I don't mind having him in the captain spot. If you do have him in the captain spot, you don't have to stay away from Lamar in the flex. These two have put up some huge scores together, but not something you have to do either. And then next up, you have Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, someone that, I just think that in any kind of build, you can put him in. if you have something where you're looking to play a large field and you're going to play Lamar and the captain, you're going to have to get a little bit crazy off the board with some of these pass catchers down the board. Tylan Wallace, Devontae Walker, Justice Hill, Ali Mitchell, and then the Mitchell Payton that we talked about earlier. I think he's someone that you can take a look at here at $200 as well. And then that's going to do it for tonight's breakdown for the Detroit Lions traveling to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Glad you guys could be here to join me for the video. Sorry we missed last night. A bit under the weather for the Kansas City and New York game, still feeling the effects. Man, I'll be honest with you guys, really sick during COVID, and COVID gave me asthma, if I could talk, gave me asthma. And ever since I've gotten this asthma, man, it's just been tough to maintain a lengthy conversation or make it throughout these videos without taking a few breaths. So I apologize for that, and I hope you guys understand that. But again, glad you all could be here. Hope we take down a large contest over on DraftKings for Monday Night Football. If you made it this far into the video, drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel. 90% of people who watch the videos are unsubscribed. Would help me out a ton and ensure that I can keep putting out these videos for you guys throughout the season for 2025. Glad you all could join me for this. Again, have a good afternoon. Hope you all win something big on DraftKings on Monday Night Football.